She was an unstoppable machine of her own making. Protected by layers of the sturdiest Ethereum armour of her own design, she hefted a hammer. Fluorescent blue swirls inside it danced vibrantly against the night sky. She was ready to take on whatever Skyrim could throw at her. Good evening, and welcome to the Iron Maiden. She is a Dunmer with a passion for all things Ethereum, a huge hammer to hit things with, and a crossbow that will absolutely eviscerate anything or anyone placed in front of it. The Iron Maiden originally hailed from the island of Vardenfell, situated in the province of Morrowind. Her family was a farming one, comfortable but not wealthy by any means. When she was a teenager, she realised that a life on the farm was not for her, and she moved to Vivec City to take up an apprenticeship with a blacksmith there. Years passed, our build ended her apprenticeship and started working under her own initiative, gaining a reputation for the high quality of both her own armour and weapons and her repair work. She earned enough to live comfortably and to keep her parents well in their old age after they had sold their farm. Her free time she spent reading and learning as much as she could outside the bounds of her profession. She was captivated by histories of the Dwemer, read as much about its architecture and their civilization as she could. On occasion, someone who had actually ventured inside some of Morrowind's Dwemer ruins stopped by, and she hung on to their every word. She resolved to one day experience that for herself when she had saved up enough money to justify leaving the forge for a few weeks. She was immensely strong from working in the forge the whole of her adult life, and could swing weapons around as though they were children's toys, but nevertheless feared that her lack of combat experience would get her into trouble in the confines of a Dwemer ruin. Unfortunately, she was not able to live out a comfortable career as a blacksmith as tragedy, the worst Morrowind had ever seen, struck. The city of Vivec, which our build called home, was almost entirely obliterated by the meteor Bardur, which left a huge crater and thousands of broken Dunmer lives in its wake. Our build was fortunate in that she lived on the outskirts of the city, and luckily she survived. Displaced by the devastation and the subsequent eruption, she took all the money she had and the tools she could carry and set off, like so many other refugees, to Skyrim. This is where your story, as the player, begins. Though lucky to be alive, the Iron Maiden had a difficult time in Windhelm. The Nords' thinly veiled distrust and sometimes overt racism made it difficult to regain her former livelihood as a blacksmith. Growing steadily more disillusioned with the squalor of the Grey Quarter and the lack of opportunity afforded to her, she used her dwindling resources to buy a horse and leave Windhelm. She had read of a forge deep within a Dwemer ruin somewhere in Skyrim that allowed its user, if skilled enough, to create armour made from Ethereum itself. Thus, she made it her mission to travel Skyrim, delving into Dwemer ruins, in search of this forge. As evidenced by the breathtaking, and not a little bit brutal footage on the screen behind you, she was clearly successful in finding and using the Ethereum forge, which you will find within the ruin of Bethalft, and be able to access upon completing the Lost to the Ages quest. The Iron Maiden wears a set of ethereal armour, improved to legendary, alongside the ethereal helmet, gauntlets, and boots. She wields, for the majority of the video, the ethereal warhammer, improved to legendary, though I also use the ethereal greatsword in parts of the video, because I think that it only looks slightly less awesome than the hammer. I'm using the Polyboss automatic crossbow, the mod for which I'll link in the description, alongside the mod for the other weapons and the armour. You can find the crossbow and its schematics at Reachwind Eyrie. The magazines which hold the bolts are super easy to manufacture, you just need firewood and a forge. You'll be needing the two-handed skill for your weapons, the heavy armour skill for your armour, the archery skill for your crossbow, and smithing to improve your armour and weapons at the workbench and grindstone. As for perks, you're going to want to invest in the Dwarven Smithing perk to improve the weapons and armour. As for your armour rating, you will only need the first two ranks of the Juggernaut perk to reach the armour cap, but knock yourself out with whatever other perks you want from the heavy armour skill tree. As for two-handed, you'll be wanting all 5 ranks of the barbarian perk, as well as the perks down the central branch, and all 3 ranks of the skull crusher perk, assuming you decide to use the warhammer. I would say that this build goes well with the Lady Stone, as you will have to rely on regen plus potions, since this build does not use magic. Speaking of which, I recommend you go for 60% health and 40% stamina as the stat spread for this build. I went for 50-50 in the version you're seeing in the video, and without a shield or the ability to dodge due to slow attack animations, I was feeling somewhat squishy in a couple of the encounters that I faced. So that's it for this build. I do hope you like it. I think it's quite possibly my most intimidating build to date, and the combination of the hammer and the automatic crossbow render it heaps of fun to play as well. Do head over and join my Discord server if you'd like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you very much for the support of my last couple of builds, it's been very much appreciated. I do hope you have a good weekend. If you're going to be watching the Formula 1 over the weekend like I am, I hope your favourite driver does well, and less than Nikita Mazepin. I'll catch you guys soon with another video.